What's going on, YouTube, fam? It's your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. For my day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Oh yeah, feel free to share the channel with your peoples. Everybody is welcome. With that being said, let's get right into the story. A friend is supposed to be a person that has your best interest at heart. You could call on them in any situation. Who wants the best for you, and even when you are not around, holds your character and name up to a high standard if somebody else is trying to slander you. Most of the time, it takes years to develop this type of bond. Most best friends have known each other since the sandbox and can stand on their friendship because for the simple fact it has stood the test of time. They have been through every situation together, shared secrets they only know about each other. You shouldn't have to second guess that person because actions speak louder than words. You should know over the years, this is my role, Doug. They solid. But some people throw their friend word out there too loosely. Rather not to feel alone in this world or just to have people to kick it with. Some individuals will meet a person Monday and by Friday, they will be calling that person a friend. You have individuals out here that just can't help themselves. They are extroverts and are not standoffish at all. They open themselves up to almost anybody, whether it's blind loyalty or just not judging people. It's not necessarily a bad trait to have, but in this world we live in, being like that can definitely backfire. You have individuals that play on the fact a person is so loyal and trusting. They can even disguise themselves as being the same way, using terms like bro or sis, making you feel like they are genuine. And that act usually rots most people to sleep. It's hard to see a snake behind a handshake and smile, and unfortunately, some people don't realize they let a snake in until they are already bit. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we'll be discussing the case of a teen who spent all day with his homie and his girlfriend just to backdoor them in an evil way. Earlier this year, 18-year-old Daryl Carter and 23-year-old Angel Price were a young couple navigating life in Baltimore. Angel had her own place, an apartment out Woodlawn, Baltimore County. She was a mother of two, a 2-year-old and also a 5-month-old. It's not clear how long her and Daryl had been together, but the couple were rocking tight, and it was stated that he was staying with her at the apartment. Everybody that knew them described the couple as pretty much staying to themselves. They wouldn't allow a lot of people in the apartment because they understood in a place like Baltimore, trusting the wrong people could put you in all kinds of situations. But it was a selective few who they rotated with on a daily basis. Mostly Daryl, whose homeboy and best friend would slide by the spot. 18-year-old Marky Cole. Daryl thought Marky was his brother and felt they were locked in, leaving Angel to also trust him and her boyfriend's judgment. In January of this year, Daryl's mother would grow concerned when she couldn't reach him. She called her son multiple times with no answer and even called Angel. She decided she would just pull up to the apartment to check on them. When she arrived and knocked on the door, she knew something wasn't right. She heard babies crying, but no one was answering the door. She quickly called Baltimore County Police, who responded to the complex in the 3400 block of Aurora Drive. Peeking through the window, one officer noticed a spent shell casing on the floor, so they knocked the door down to find a 2-year-old and 5-month-old baby crying but unharmed. But unfortunately, Angel and Daryl were both pronounced gone on the scene, suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. It wasn't no sign of forced entry, and the family and friends stated the couple kept a tight circle. One friend went down to the station to talk to police. They stated they were one of the only people the couple let in the house, and Daryl's best friend Marky. They claimed he would often stop by. They claimed the young man always wore dark clothes and had a ski mask on, and gave police his social media. They scrolled through some pictures seeing what Marky was wearing, as they was waiting for surveillance video to come back from the apartment complex. When footage came back, it showed on January 10th of this year, Angel backing up her car in a parking spot in the complex around 9 o'clock p.m. Daryl got out and they got the kids out the car, and the unknown man hopped out wearing a black North Face jacket over a gray hoodie, trying to cover up his face. He also had on black pants and shoes. They all walked to the apartment building, and around 10:40 p.m., the unknown male walked out the building with a face mask on and jumped in Angel's car and took off. This was just one day before the couple's bodies were found. Her car was found a few days later in West Baltimore on West Lexington Street. Police also noticed the man in the video was wearing the same shoes and other items of clothing as Markey had on his social media. And Angel's car was found just 2 blocks from where his girlfriend stayed at. A few months would go by before they were able to locate the young man and bring him in for questioning. Once police told him his phone pinged in the same location with the couple's phones all day, on January 10th, he admitted he came to Angel and Daryl's apartment around 3:45 p.m. to do DoorDash with the couple. He also admitted to wearing a North Face coat and hoodie. But Markey claimed after DoorDashing for a few hours, he asked them to drop him off on Poplar Grove to go see some girls. Police called the young man's bluff, but he stuck to his story until they showed him footage from the complex. Once he saw the video, he invoked his right to remain silent and asked for a lawyer. He was taken to Baltimore County Detention Center, charged with 2 counts of first-degree hit and held without bail. As of now, this is a new case, and Markey is innocent until proven otherwise. Rest in peace to Angel and Daryl. I send my prayers and condolences out to their families. Daryl's mother, who had to find her son, and Angel's kids, who was at the home and had to witness their mother being taken away from them in such a cold fashion. As of now, it's no motive on why the couple were shot, but it's crazy how people said they had a small circle. They only trusted Markey and one other person in their home, and Daryl's so-called best friend and the one who he let come around is accused of taking him and his girl's life. Most of the time, people judge loners and call them antisocial, but I know personally, most people that are like that have a reason to be. Either they have seen something like this or been a victim of a snake or fake friends. It makes you not trust people once the people you trusted the most cross you. To be out with your homie DoorDashing all day, they probably letting you in on the bread they making. And to allegedly take their lives and leave the kids there, not knowing if anybody will find them, is a different kind of cruddy. That means you had that on your mind all day. But I won't talk too much more about this one. I'm going to leave it open for discussion. Y'all let me know what y'all think about the situation in the comments. Yeah, man, crazy story. Rest in peace, Angel and Daryl. I definitely send my prayers to their family. But I'm going to leave this one open. Like I said, y'all leave it in the comments. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. This is another episode of the Baltimore Way. It's your boy Tony 2 times. Love, fam. I'm out. What's going on, YouTube, fam? It's your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. For the day one fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Oh yeah, feel free to share the channel with your peoples. Everybody is welcome. With that being said, let's get right into the story. In certain environments all over the world, unfortunately, bad things happen. They could happen to you or people you love because the streets have no picks. Now, some people who are law-abiding citizens will call the police if they are a victim to a crime, which if you didn't sign up for that lifestyle, there's nothing wrong with that. But others that live by a certain code or consider themselves street dudes live by a different set of rules. Eye for an eye, retaliation, revenge, get back, whatever you want to call it. Meaning you do something to me or mine, we double back and do something worse to yours. It's really nothing new under the sun. You have generational beefs that started decades ago, from people doing something to an individual whose family or friends live by that code. For example, your father was beefing with somebody in the 90s. That person loses their life. Their peoples feel like your father or his people did it. Now it's war. Sometimes that generation will knock each other off, leaving them all in graveyards or jail cells. But now the victim's son wants get back, and you and him are now beefing. It's a cycle that for whatever reason we were taught to live by. Some people wake up, peep the trap, the environmental trauma and pain we inflict on each other, and say, you know what? We've been shooting at each other for years, and nobody is winning at the end of the day. I'm done. But others will never. They don't care about hurting somebody that looks like them, keeping the cycle going, putting their peoples in harm's way, because if you are not reachable, retaliation extends to family and friends. But that mindset has put more of us in early graves and cells than anything else. And unfortunately, the cycle continues. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we'll be discussing the case of a man's plan for street justice and retaliation that backfired in a crazy way. Back in 2024, 41-year-old Terrence Hazelwood was navigating life in Baltimore. Described as somebody who loved his family and friends a lot and was very loyal to his peoples. Terrence would become more than mad when he heard something that happened to his 14-year-old godson. Allegedly, word on the street was an older man in his 30s, who we will call Jay for the sake of the story, confronted Terrence's godson on his way home from school, robbed the young man, and made him give him his clothes and shoes, before then telling Shorty to walk home. Terrence, familiar with Jay, had a choice to make. Either let his godson's people report the incident or find Jay and retaliate. Already heated that a grown man was targeting his teenage godson, Terrence made up his mind. It wasn't no rap, nothing to talk about, and when he saw Jay, it was on sight. 2 days after his godson was robbed, he was riding with his cousin. When Terrence got word, Jay might be at a local liquor store called Club Paradise, located in the 1300 block of Lawrence Street in West Baltimore. Thirsty for get back, he got his cousin to stop the car while he walked in the store to confront the man. He was so focused on the mission, Terrence didn't peep, time out, or police all in the area. As he walked up on Jay, asking why he tried his peoples like that, it didn't take long for multiple shots to go off, and Terrence, trying to get out the jam, he ran back to his cousin's whip, but BPD spotted the man. They saw Terrence running from the store and followed the vehicle. In a desperate attempt to get away, he decided to bang it out with police, letting off shots at them, before hopping out the car, running on feet. Now with helicopters and police cars on him, he dropped the gun in the sewer drain and somehow managed to get out the situation. But the car he was in and his cousin had been stopped by police, with his peoples being taken into custody. Back at the scene of the shooting, police found Jay was hit 5 times, in critical condition but still conscious. Police already had information on the trigger man, and with Terrence shooting at them, they were on his heels. Only 2 days would pass before he was picked up, taken into custody, charged with multiple counts of first-degree attempt, reckless endangerment, and handgun violations, as police were able to retrieve the weapon that he dropped in the sewer. When questioned about the incident, Terrence informed police the victim Jay wasn't an innocent bystander. He stated the fact that Jay had robbed his godson 2 days prior and was walking around like it was sweet. Jay would survive his injuries, and the case would make its way to court. Prosecutors pointed to the fact Terrence could have reported the crime and told authorities what happened to his peoples, but he decided he would handle the situation himself with street justice. His actions were called reckless, as they pointed to the fact of a trickle-down effect, him shooting Jay, then desperate not to get caught, shooting at the police. But his lawyer argued Terrence felt police probably wouldn't have done anything, as situations like this happen all the time in the Baltimore streets with no consequences. So he decided Jay wasn't going to mess with his godson again and took matters into his own hands. The judge called it a case of vigilant justice gone wrong and agreed with the prosecutor, stating Terrence showed no regard for human life, and in the end, he was sentenced to life in prison plus 30 years, with 22 years suspended. So basically, life plus 8 years. He was ordered to have no contact with the surviving victim, Jay. Fortunately, in this situation, nobody lost their life, But Terrence, at 42 years old, caught a L, a life sentence. I definitely understand his motive. Somebody does something to one of your loved ones who really can't defend themselves, that would make anybody mad. If Jay really did rob his godson at 30-something years old and Shorty was only 14, he definitely was a bully. But one thing about the streets, dudes like that don't last long anyway. Eventually, he will have tried the wrong person or Hopper, because these teens not playing either. But Terrence crashed out. The cold part about it is, his godson is still out there by himself, now with no protection, because you can't help him from a jail cell. But I want to know y'all thoughts on this situation. Do you feel like Terrence was in the right, or did he handle the situation wrong? And have you yourself ever been put in a situation where somebody did something to you or one of your family members and you felt like you had to retaliate? If so, what made you change your mind, or how did the situation play out? Let me know in the comments. Yeah, man, it's a crazy situation, but I ain't gonna talk too much more about this one. I want to know y'all thoughts about the situation, but I appreciate you if you made it to the end. Y'all already know it's all love, fam. This is another episode of the Baltimore Way. This your boy Tony 2 times. I'm out.
It's your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times, and I'm back with another episode of the Baltimore Way. In this video, I'll be discussing the recent case involving a father who tried to help his adult daughter get back on track, but instead, he lost his life. But before we get into this video, I'd like to say it's good to be back. Thank you to everyone for their kind words and support. I love and appreciate you all so much. If you like to support the channel monetarily, you can find the information on the screen. And to support us for absolutely no cost, please hit that like button. Also, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and join the Tony 2 times family. Tap that notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. And of course, feel free to share this video with everyone you know. Also, if you'd like to see more episodes of the Baltimore Way, please click the link to the playlist in the description box after this video to get caught up. Everything in this video is alleged. All right, let's get into it. There's nothing like the love between a father and his daughter. Growing up, my father was my hero, protector, and my provider. I was a daddy's girl. In my eyes, he could do no wrong. As I became an adult, my father would do anything to help me succeed, even when I became a young mother. He promised to take care of me and my daughter until I got myself together. He was there for us until I decided I wanted to be completely independent. So when 59-year-old Brian Reed decided to help his 37-year-old daughter Chanel, I can imagine he felt the same way my father did when he wanted to be there for me. Chanel Reed had fallen on some hard times recently. She sent her 2 children to live with their father a few weeks ago while she got herself together. Her father, Brian, decided he was going to help her out. He allowed her to stay at his home on the 5600 block of Groveland Avenue in Northwest Baltimore. According to a neighbor and friend of Brian, he was doing everything he could to get his daughter help. Some believed that Chanel may have been suffering from mental illness and was under a lot of stress due to her circumstances. Brian wanted to give his daughter as much space as possible, so he decided to spend his time elsewhere and would sometimes even sleep in his car right outside his home. He gave Chanel complete access. On January 18th, 2025, Brian, according to his friend, had spent his day getting new license plates for the vehicle he had just gotten for his daughter so she could get around on her own. When he came back to his residence on Groveland, he put the brand new tags on the nice BMW SUV that was meant for Chanel. Later that day, Brian noticed that the locks on his home had been changed. Chanel had seemingly changed the locks without her father knowing. At around 6 p.m., Brian called the police, accusing Chanel of locking him outside of his home. With the impression that the issue was resolved, officers left a short time later. Brian then got a screwdriver and started to remove the deadbolt from the front door. He and Chanel got into a heated argument over the locks. Less than an hour after police left the house, Chanel called 911 and alleged that her father had put his hands on her. As officers were responding to the call, Chanel redialed 911 and said that she had shot her father. When officers arrived at 5614 Groveland Avenue, they found a glass-shattered front door and 59-year-old Brian Reed suffering from a gunshot wound. He was rushed to the hospital for treatment, but he later succumbed to his injuries. Chanel remained at the scene after calling 911. A Glock 23 was recovered outside the house, along with two .40 caliber shell casings, a screwdriver, and other items, police said. Inside the house, police said they found a bucket of .40 caliber ammunition and two clear gel caps with a white powder substance, along with other items. Baltimore police took Chanel into custody. Police said Chanel Reed provided a written statement saying that an argument turned physical with her father over a lock on the door. She told police that she went upstairs to get her weapon while her father was attempting to unscrew the deadbolt. Chanel said, "I went upstairs to get my weapon, my gun, while my dad, Brian, was still trying to unscrew the deadbolt, and I shot towards him, which looked to be his left thigh. He seemed to hesitate while still working on the door, but then he eventually left the house, and I shot towards him once more and called 911 to let them know." 37-year-old Chanel Reed was charged with first-degree hit in connection to the slaying of her father, Brian Reed. She was taken to Central Booking Intake Facility, where she will more than likely remain while she awaits trial. Chanel Reed is innocent until proven guilty. May Brian Reed rest in peace. My deepest condolences to his family and loved ones. I send my well wishes during this difficult time. I can't begin to imagine how hard this situation is to cope with. A daughter took her father's life over him removing locks from a door at his home in which he allowed her to stay. There may be more to the story, but based on the information provided to the public, this tragedy is detestable. A father was trying to help his daughter, and in return, she took his life. He had just gotten her a car, and I believe he truly wanted the best for her. But Chanel had to want the best for herself. I don't understand why she would change the locks in the first place without his knowledge. My father and I wouldn't see eye to eye sometimes, but I couldn't imagine things getting to this point. I just decided it was time for me to go and be independent. We have to realize as adults, our parents owe us nothing, and in turn, we owe our parents nothing. Whatever is done and reciprocated in a parent and adult-child relationship should be done willingly and not out of obligation or entitlement. We also have to remember not to fall into the trap anger leads us to. It's nothing but turmoil and destruction. At any rate, some things in this case point to mental illness and/or substance use playing a role in Chanel's decision. Do you believe that's an excuse to do what Chanel did to her father? Do you believe there's more to this story? Why does it seem like there has been a sudden rise in fatal family disputes? What do you think is happening in society to cause the uptick? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. All right, fam, that's it for this episode of the Baltimore Way. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 times. Until next time.
What's going on YouTube, fam? It's your boy Tony 2 times, and we back with another episode of the Baltimore Way, man. Before I start, be sure to tap that like button. Definitely watch this video to the end to hear the full story and all the details in the case. For the day one, fam, y'all already know it's all love. Thanks for tuning back into another episode. If you're new to the channel and you're feeling the content, feel free to subscribe. Definitely hit that notification bell so you can be notified every time we drop a new video. Oh yeah, feel free to share the channel with your peoples. Everybody is welcome. Let's get right into the story. In a lot of cities around the world, it's young men and women fighting daily just to be themselves. What I mean by that is, when you come from a certain place where as a kid, you can't even do kid things without being looked at a certain kind of way or being judged, it takes a toll on a young person's mind. We all know right now the hoppers or shorties are very active in the streets, and the age they are jumping off the porch at is getting younger and younger. As a parent, you try your best to provide the necessary tools for your child to be alright out here. A roof over their head, clothes, food, discipline, and love. But despite what's done in-house, it's another element of growing up as a young person. And that's what you see and are exposed to outside. Since I was younger, it's always been a kind of grooming process in the neighborhood. Older guys will see a hopper that's always outside, a little more advanced than the other kids their age, and take them under their wing. Sometimes it's to guide them in the right direction. Like, shorty, go play ball or go to school. Ain't nothing slick going on out here. But most of the time, it's for their own personal gain. As a juvenile, you can catch serious charges and be home within a few hours, as long as your mother or some adults come to get you. So in the street dude's mind, that's an opportunist, we can use shorty to do our dirty work, hold guns, packs, hit cells, and unfortunately, for so many kids, once they get caught up in a cycle, some don't make it out. And on this episode of the Baltimore Way, we'll be discussing a heartbreaking case of Jalen Richards, a 12-year-old boy who lost his life after being pressured into the streets. Back in 2023, Jalen Richards, also known as J-Rock around his way, was a 12-year-old kid growing up in South Baltimore. Him and his family lived in Westport, as most of us Baltimoreans know as the projects out there. But despite that, the preteen's family tried to keep him on the right track, focused, and let him be a normal kid by going to school, coming home, and spending time with his family. Jalen was a 6th grader at Westport Academy. When he was in his neighborhood, Jalen was described as a leader, the little guy with a big personality who kept all the old heads laughing. But somewhere in the mix, things had shifted for the young man. According to family, he started paying more attention to the street guys around his way, and the fascination soon turned to him coming around trying to get in the mix. Whether they gave him a little pack to sell for a few extra dollars or sent him on a bigger mission to go carjack somebody. The thing, Jalen was always told that he had to put in work to work his way up in the squad in the neighborhood and to help them make money. As Jalen started catching charges, his family would often tell shorty that the older guys who he considered his friends were using him. But by this time, he was in too deep and doing things most 12-year-olds only saw on TV. As time went on, Jalen racked up more charges, and eventually he would be put on the box. His family felt it might help the young man open his eyes or slow him down. On April 15, 2023, it was a little bit after 9 p.m. and a typical night in Westport. Jalen was outside, close by his house, when a car spent the block and spotted the young man. As they approached him, he tried to run away, but seconds later, an assault rifle went off. As people in the community heard the shots, They called BPD, who responded to Westport to find Jalen laying in the street, suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. He was rushed to a local hospital in critical condition and went into surgery, but unfortunately, the young man wouldn't survive his injuries. Back at the scene, even the police were in disbelief that somebody would target a 12-year-old boy and chase him down with an assault rifle, letting off a bunch of shots. But police had no leads or suspects. As the news got back to his family, his mother was devastated. She stated she tried to keep baby boy from going down that road, and his grandmother opened up about how he was used. She felt he jumped into the streets to help benefit other people. She stated he would often take charges, even carjack people, but Jalen himself couldn't drive, so she knew he was doing it for others. She felt either they turned on him or somebody they sent him to do something to doubled back and caught the young man by himself. Either way, he was taken advantage of by the older guys. His grandmother stated they still can go home and hug their peoples, but her baby was gone. As the news spread through the community, people were shocked and hurt. Community organizations came through to check on residents in the area, as many people were scared to even be on camera because they didn't want no one to think they was offering up information. Jalen's aunt pleaded for answers as the family grieved. She felt like he was a baby and he didn't deserve what happened to him at all. His grandmother and others in the community called out the city and their leaders, asking what was the help for the kids, like programs, and why was it so easy for them to get their hands on a gun rather than other activities. One mother who had recently moved her son out of the same area to Hagerstown, Maryland, spoke out about the situation. She stated it wasn't so much of what goes on in the neighborhoods, but it was the fact her son told her he felt like he didn't have a choice but to go outside and participate, or he himself could be in harm's way. As time went on, a vigil was held for Jalen. Hundreds of people showed up from all over to show their support. The story went nationwide, as some even compared the young man to the Chicago story of 11-year-old Yummy, a gang member who was forced to put in work for his gang before they turned around and took his life in the 90s. But even with all the publicity, no information ever came up on who took Jalen's life. Only a shattered family and community left with memories. As one family friend wanted the world to know, just because he lived in the projects doesn't mean write Jalen off as a bad kid or a product of his environment. As of now, Jalen's case is still unsolved, and the city is still dealing with a crisis of young men and women losing their life at an alarming rate. Rest in peace to Jalen. I send my deepest prayers and condolences to his family. 12 years old, Shorty was a baby. I'm not saying what he was out here doing was right, but he definitely was manipulated being that young without no guidance. He probably looked at the older guys as his big brothers or father figures just to be sent off. It's sad that in certain places, kids got to grow up that fast. By the time they are 18 or 19, they have been through so much, they already are beat down in life, looking a lot older than they really are with no motivation out here. I will never forget, right before I left the city, one of my little homies I used to always pull up on and talk to, I pulled up on him one day and told him I was gone. I was trying to find a better way of life. I asked him why he sat on the steps and counted his pills in his pack, will he ever leave? And he stated, no, this is all I know. Where else would I go? At the time, he was only 16. As a parent, how do you stop that way of thinking in your kid, feeling like they gotta be a part of the streets? It's the answer just to move away, because unfortunately, everybody doesn't have the means just to pick up and go. Do we depend on city leaders, or do we just try to shelter our kids from the world? I want to know y'all thoughts about this situation in the comments, and tell me what you think could be done to keep our young kids out the streets and from making mistakes like this. Yeah, man, messed up situation. Rest in peace, baby boy Jalen. I definitely send my prayers to his family. But I ain't gonna talk too much more about this one. Y'all leave it in the comments. I appreciate you if you made it to the end. It's another episode of the Baltimore Way. It's your boy Tony 2 times. Love, fam. I'm out.